Hey everybody, it's my 40-gallon Purple Spotted Gudgeon tank. While he's still out and visible, we'll get a look at my gudgeon real quick. I just finished doing fair whack of maintenance. I did a big water change and I did a lot of plant trimming. I did what we will sort of call a gravel vac, but we'll get into that in a minute. I'm trying to get a decent look at the fish here. He's pretty reclusive, and the way this tank is set up, he doesn't even have to really hide to make it hard for him to see him. So when we started, the tank water level was already about 4 inches low. It was really in need of some maintenance. It needed much more than just a top off. I've got plans this afternoon. I'm trying to get out of here, so I am in kind of a hurry. I actually didn't even realize in all the fuss that I forgot to wipe the glass down while I was in there, but no time for that now. The kayak is already on the back of the truck and I can hear the reservoir calling me. So we're just going to talk about what I actually did, and I can worry about wiping the glass down later. As I already mentioned, we did the big water change. I did test the nitrates while I was in there just to see what was going on. This is one of those oddball tanks that, despite having only 2 fish in it, I always have high nitrates in this tank, and indeed, they're not insane, but you know, they're up there. That's definitely red. There's no arguing that that's even close to the orange level. So I'd put that probably at least 60 parts per million. You know, we're well over the 40 parts per million, where it's sort of in that changeover between the orange and the red. So we're way into the red, and I kind of was expecting that in this particular case because of all of the dead plant material that was in there. The last time I did any work to this tank, for my regular viewers, if you remember when I came in here and I cut the top off of my temple plant right here, and I cut all the side branches and everything off, I just stuck them in the aquarium off to the side because I didn't really have any place to put them. And they just sort of sat there, and all the leaves started falling off, and some of them started growing roots, and some of them fell down into the tank, and it just became a real mess. And of course, my other plants in here, just over the natural course of time, they lose leaves, and you know, leaves will turn yellow, and those were just getting all sort of caught up in with all the other mess that was in there. And it was really kind of gross pulling all that stuff out of there. It was almost like cleaning my gutters. It was all sort of dead, rotten, slimy leaves, and it was just not pleasant. But it was, you know, it was way overdue. I really needed to get in there and do it. And that's kind of why today I said I got plans this afternoon. I really wanted to make sure I got something done before I went out, and this was the thing that was most urgently needed, so we finally got it taken care of. So while I was in there, I also trimmed my temple plant back again. It's been that long that it was actually literally inches from the light again. I had to cut the whole mess back, and not just the top, because the top was originally cut back, and then that gave me all these branches, and all these branches were almost up to the light again. So I cut all of them off. I cut this one way back. This one actually had side branches that needed to be cut back. That had a side branch that was so big it already had roots developing on it, and so that is actually now planted out in my yard. I'm going to see what that'll do out in the garden. And then all of the other cuttings I threw in a bucket this time, rather than putting them in the tank where they would just sit and get neglected and make the tank look all sloppy again. In fact, you can see right here where I didn't clean the glass, this is where the water level had gotten down to. You can see that line, and a dead leaf had just dried against the glass, and that is actually on the inside of the tank. This is not on the surface at all. So that's dried up leaf stuck to the glass from the inside, and when I filled the tank back up, it's just now under the water level. So that'll soften up over time, and when I do get in here to actually clean this tank out, and again, you can very distinctly see where the water line was. That's how low the water had gotten before this water change. I shot an impromptu video last night on my Patreon page. If you're interested, you can check that out if you're a patron. I don't know if you check over there to see if I ever post videos or not, but I did post a video last night. It was just an impromptu sort of fish room chat video, and we started by having a look at this tank before I got in there today and did all this work on it. So it was, you'll get to see what it looks like in the before state. And back here, we didn't do pretty much anything to anything except the filter change which, no biggie, that's just a hang on the back filter there, simple to do. I did pull the bio sponge out, and I gave that a good scrub and clean because it was really gross and water was barely moving through it. It was starting to get really clogged up. And then, as I mentioned, I got my gravel vac in there, and, well, my big siphon, it's the the Python or the Aquaon hose or whatever you want to call it, got in there and did the best I can with the sandy bottom and with the way the rocks are and everything. There's only so much I can do with drawing that stuff up and out of there. But if you had seen it before, you'd realize I really did pull a lot of the stuff out of there. And then in all these roots, see if I can back up enough where I'm not glaring in the video, all those roots in there are just basically, it's like a net, and everything that flows around through the tank just gets collected in that. So I ran my siphon all through those roots as best I could, and really just kind of went through there and picked up all kinds of gross, nasty stuff. And you can see I clearly missed some stuff that still needs to get pulled on up and out of there. But all in all, by and large, I would say that the tank is looking way, way better. And honestly, if I had just taken a few minutes to wipe that glass down while I was in there, it would look a whole lot better than this. So there you go. Unfortunately, I didn't, but you get what you get sometimes. Again, I'm in a hurry. I'm not going to worry about that now. It's not hurting anything. It just sort of knocked the edge off of how good this tank would have looked for this video. But, well, like I said, you get what you get sometimes, so there you go. So there's a last look. We'll see if we can get close to him before he freaks out. Get a much better look at my Purple Spotted Gudgeon. Really, really cool fish. I really do like this fish a lot. But it's like a love-hate relationship I have with him. It's really kind of a boring fish in one sense. It does a whole lot of just sitting around doing nothing. I've said before, you could just get a plastic model of one and just float it in your tank, and you'd never know the difference. You wouldn't know you didn't have a real fish in there. But I joke when I say that. I mean, you can see it does move around and swim, and of course now that I've got the open top tank, the way I feed it is a little bit different, and it does actually make for some interesting entertainment while I'm in here feeding the tank. So one of these days, if I get lucky, sometimes he will come over here to the right hand side of the tank where it's a little more open, and we can do a feeding video there, and we'll actually get to see him feeding, whereas over here it's a lot more difficult to really even get him to as the pellets fall down, they get caught up in all the Java fern, and half the time they never make it to the bottom. And that's one of the reasons this tank, even though it only has 2 fish in it, is so dirty all the time. It's got, or the high nitrates, I should say. Any of the pellets he misses just sink to the bottom. He's totally a predator and will not simply pick the food up off the bottom. I have seen him on rare occasions pick up pieces of the Hikari algae wafers, which, again, reassures me that the Hikari algae wafers are just really, really good stuff, because even this fish has picked up pieces of them off the bottom, and it simply does not do that with any of its other food. And if it doesn't get it off the surface or get it while it's sinking, it just sinks and then it stays on the bottom. And so some of these pieces of crud, you can see these light colored spots, this and this in particular, are uneaten food pellets. And they go on the bottom and they just sit there. And you would think that the catfish that lives in this tank, and I can still see it in there, I don't know if you can or not, yeah, we can kind of make it out. The catfish that lives in there, you'd think would come out at night and eat those pellets up off the bottom and stuff, but it never does. I've never figured out what that catfish eats. I never put any food in there specifically for that catfish. I have always just left the pellets that the gudgeon misses, and I've let him go to the bottom and assumed that's what the catfish eats. But every time I do it, I come back the next day and the pellets are right where they sunk the day before. There's not really enough current to really move the debris around on the bottom. There probably would be if there wasn't so much, basically all that stuff slows the water flow. You can think of it as a muffler for the water flowing. It just slows it all down, and nothing really flows across the bottom enough to move sinking cichlid pellets, which is what I feed that gudgeon. And of course, like I said, the catfish just lets them sit there. They rot. They don't ever get eaten by the catfish. So I have no idea what that catfish actually comes out and eats at night, but it must do something. It's been in there for a very long time, and it still moves around and eats and stuff. If I do throw shrimp pellets in there right in front of it, it will come out of its cave and gobble them up. But it does not come out at night and eat the ones that are just lying around, or maybe it eats one or two and leaves the rest. I don't know. I've never been able to figure out what that catfish on the bottom eats. So there you go. There's my much longer than I intended look at my 40-gallon Purple Spotted Gudgeon tank. Another one of my open top tanks that I like so much. Hopefully we will never lose the gudgeon out of this tank. It's been in there for a long time and has never shown any signs of being a jumper, so I'm not too worried about that. And then, of course, the catfish. I know that one's not going to come up and out. It never comes out from under its rock, apparently. So thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. You don't want to miss anything I got coming up. And don't forget, as I said, this is my Purple Spotted Gudgeon tank. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.